Well, if they're guided by DNA, as we just discussed, right off the bat, they're not empiric, okay? That's a component of antibiotic stewardship. You know, we only use antibiotics for things that we've accurately diagnosed and we know that we have coverage for, okay? So we want to get away from empiric, from trial and error. You know, modern medicine is founded on evaluate, diagnose, and treat. And in wound care, we've been doing a lot of trial and error, okay, because we just didn't have the tools. I mean, we had tools to evaluate, you know, blood perfusion and how you know, what's our blood flow. We have a lot of tools, but we didn't have an accurate way to evaluate and assess bioburden, and now we do with the DNA. So the first advantage is they're not empiric. The second advantage, you know, I work in chronic infection with other disciplines, you know, ENT and cystic fibrosis, etc. And one of the top guys, Dr. Michael Poole, I was talking to one time in ENT, and I said, so why don't, you've got biofilm infections in the middle ear, I mean, why are we, you know, not having these massive problems like we have in chronic wounds? And he said, well, it's because we treat topically. I was like, what do you mean, because we treat topically? Well, biofilms are inherently, much more inherently resistant to antibiotics. That's true. Their spectrum runs anywhere from hundreds of fold to 1,500-fold more resistant to the same antibiotic that we determine sensitivity for in the culture in the planktonic state. Once it's in the biofilm state, hundreds to thousands-fold more resistant. But when they treat topically with eardrops and ENT, they're 3,000-fold higher than the highest published MIC, okay? So basically, they can address that with concentration topically, and that is one of the key advantages to the LipoGel RX, that topically we can go much higher on our concentration without being toxic to the host, but address that inherent resistance that the biofilm has. That's very powerful. Two, we can use antibiotics in combination. You know, it's not always handy to put somebody on 5 IVs and an oral med, okay? It's just not practically feasible. But if the census was that complicated, we can do that topically. We pick what we need, we put them in there, they're at high concentration. The next advantage is that the LipoGel system is the base delivery system for that. So we're combining anti-biofilm agents, a great defense, with antibiotics that are extremely targeted based on the DNA analysis. And that's DNA-guided personalized medicine. It doesn't get any, you know, hotter and cooler than that, more targeted than that. And finally, you know, antibiotics, by and large, you know, they work by either concentration or duration. And since the LipoGel is a very nice sustained release, not only do we have the high concentrations, it's for prolonged periods. So concentration and duration both get covered in that. And, you know, it's far less expensive.